the church. Here's the steeple.
Oh, you're doing it wrong.
Open the door and the diaper. There's a diaper with stuff inside of it.
Ew.
That's just a twist. That's my twist.
This church does not offer childcare.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You're here with us.
Somehow you got here.
You're in the house. Oh my, I gotta get a new security system. We're back with another episode. Tim's here. Everybody. Give it up for him.
Nobody's clapping.
They are.
Nobody claps anymore.
Nobody claps anymore.
Kids these days.
This used to be a country. We used to clap. Now they're too cool.
Oh, snap in.
The snap never caught on. We thought that was the future. The snapping in the 90s, it was like you were at the cool coffee shop and people were doing poetry readings. And I think we all thought that's where things were headed.
Yeah.
Sort of like in the 70s or 50s with the flying cars. They're like, it's going to flying cars, I'm telling you. That's where it's going.
Yeah, now everybody's just...
They do...
Can't hear that.
Does that happen to you a lot?
That's how it is on the internet.
Oh, yeah. What is the whisper? Is that another emoji? You're just saying you can't hear it.
Can't hear it.
You can't hear any of this feedback. You missed the audio-based feedback is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Did you do your tongue out with it? Did you do that?
No, I did it.
Oh, you're just a
frowny face. I just have a big lower lip.
Well, however you celebrate, welcome. Tim's here. We have a very fun podcast today. We're going to be talking about a Christian movie.
I like that you say Tim's here.
Tim's here. It makes it special.
I'm hearing all of them.
If I'm being honest, it's a vulnerability thing for me. Because I'm like, they don't want to just see me. So I'm like, but Tim's here. It's a cool party now.
That's a sell?
It's a cool party.
No. Even my wife doesn't care.
The sheep's here.
Sheep's here.
That's not true, Tim.
It's more true than you think.
That's not true.
Someday when my kids are old enough to listen to a podcast.
Go through these treasure troves, Dad. Well, we're doing a Christian movie today, but before we get into that, we have some housekeeping to do.
Okay, good.
Per usual. Today's episode brought to you by the makers of bacon packaging. Interesting, we just get these. When is the last time you were challenged to go all in? When's the last time someone asked you to commit? When's the last time someone called you to rise to the occasion? The makers of bacon packaging are setting the bar high each and every day by asking the question, can you handle it? Because once you break this seal, there's no going back. Bacon packaging. Get all in or get yourself some ham.
With the little zipper.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to close ham.
Oh my gosh, so many ways.
What?
Not one of those vacuum sealed ones, though.
Not one bacon company has addressed this.
No, and I agree. I don't need the full pound of bacon at that moment. What if I just want like 3 pieces of bacon?
This sandwich would be good with like a couple pieces of bacon. Oh yeah?
Watch
Would it be good with 1.5 pounds of bacon?
So somebody out there probably has a strip or 2 of bacon.
Like a just to go quick.
Yeah,
but even that one you can't close. It's some sort of commitment that was made long ago, and buried in the ground somewhere is this bacon commitment to we never reseal the package.
We don't do that with like ground beef. We wouldn't do that with anything.
Not like put it away.
Yeah,
and maybe that's it.
You would. You put it back in the cupboard.
Maybe it's an identity issue for bacon because bacon thinks it's an entree protein, and so it's like, well, you wouldn't say that to chicken. You wouldn't want resealable chicken packaging. You wouldn't want resealable, and it's like I know, but I don't bacon. We don't eat you as like the whole entree. You're a side.
Who's we?
Not typically, anyway. It's a part of the whole.
Just the best part.
Tim, this is the Christian Movies Are Funny segment of our podcast. This is where we sit down and we review Christian movies together. Mm-hmm. We talk about Christian movies. We watch Christian movies separate, and then we come together to discuss. We consume the movie. We discuss it here on the podcast. Today, we are doing a movie. Oh, I didn't get the date. 2008?
2008.
2008?
Yeah. 2008
movie. We're on a little bit of a theme. Diehard listeners of the podcast. The last movie review.
Both of them.
In sequence was A Man Called John.
Oh, yeah,
and today we are reviewing The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry. 2008 movie, The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry. Tim, what can you tell us about this movie?
I can tell you some technical details. Wait, I know you don't even know this. This film was directed by Rich Cristiano. It's written by Dave and Rich Cristiano. These are twin brothers.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Kind of like the Russo brothers, but not as good.
No relation.
No relation. They've got a couple of movies. They work together. Anyway, there's not much interesting there.
But I will say I think they have like a company, right? They've put out a couple of these. I got recommended other Cristiano movies.
Yeah. And so like Dave has written a bunch of movies I am not gonna see, and all of these films I'm probably not gonna see them
unless. Here on the podcast, we make you watch them. I do want to speak on this just for one moment because I think their production company is like Cristiano Films, or something like that. And when I was watching the movie, I thought, is this like just an Italian way to say Christian?
I know,
you know what I mean? Like it's like Christian Films. Oh, Cristiano Films. Oh yeah, maybe it's the European branch.
Yeah,
Christian Films. No. But it's a name.
It's their last name.
Mm-hmm.
Their third name, I think. This film stars Gavin MacLeod, I think that's how you say it, as Jonathan Sperry.
Yeah.
Gavin MacLeod he's old, was old. He was, well, this is the dark path this is going down. He was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He was best known, I think, as the captain on The Love Boat.
Oh.
But he was also the voice of Captain Grumble on the Pound Puppies cartoon in 2011. You were a fanatic of the Pound Puppies cartoon.
Why do I vaguely remember like at least a trailer for the Pound Puppies?
Well, I had the little Pound Puppy, the little puppy.
In 2011?
Well, I'm not going to throw it away.
How did you end up with a Pound Puppy?
No, I had one as a kid.
He was on the show in 2011?
Yeah, there was a show.
Oh, but the show didn't start in 2011.
I don't know.
Because you would have been...
No.
Well into your 20s, I think.
Yeah.
That's the math I was doing in my head is like, how did you end up? No. So Pound Puppies was around. Okay.
Yeah, they were a toy first, and then they became
Mr.
a
Grumble.
TV show. Yeah, and he also even appeared on an episode of Pinky and the Brain. This film, The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry, was his final film role before he passed away in 2021. So don't say anything bad about him.
No. Let me just make a quick couple of notes.
Couple of changes. Also starring Jansen Panettiere as Dustin. Jansen, brother of another Hollywood actor, Hayden Panettiere.
No way.
He was in The Walking Dead for an episode. He was in Ethan Stevens. He was on Everybody Hates Chris. And he was the voice of Young Stripes in the very not popular film Racing Stripes.
About a zebra, I think.
Yeah. Jansen also died in 2023.
What the what?
Of a big heart. So don't say anything bad about him. This film also stars Robert Guillaume. Get rid of it. As Mr. Barnes. He was famous for being the star of the TV show Benson. I don't know if you ever watched that as a kid.
Detective show?
No, not at all. I think he was like a teacher or something. But he was hilarious. He's great. He's profound actor, best actor in the whole.
If you tell me this man passed away.
He was also the original voice of Rafiki in the 1994 animated film The Lion King.
No way. Mr. Barnes was?
Yeah. And he also did a lot of like Rafiki voices in video games and stuff. That's what he was doing. Like end of his life was like cash and checks.
Oh, for sure.
Because end of his life, he died in 2017. So don't say anything bad about him either.
Cool.
I'm sure most of the rest of the cast died or is about to die if I've seen any of the any films that. Anyway, this is what happens to people.
Yeah.
Moving on, Frankie Ryan Manriquez as Albert, Alan Isaacson as Mark.
Yeah.
Bailey, these are all kids. Bailey Gardner as Tanya, and Taylor Bogan as Nick.
Okay.
Nick was the jerk, but he was also in Lost.
Oh. Regular character or just was an episode or two?
He was like the kid of. He was like when they did the back in time kind of thing. He was like the young version of one of the characters.
Did you recognize him? Oh, okay. You were a Lost guy. Didn't you watch Lost? Yeah.
But that was also like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Finally stars Mary Jean Bentley as Mrs. Sharp, Dustin's mom. I've never seen her before, but she is credited as an extra in Sweet Home Alabama. So
thought I recognized her.
Something.
Thought I recognized her. Well, that's the podcast for today.
Everybody's dead.
Because I refuse to go any further under these premises.
Yeah.
Premises. Wow. That's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it brings us to our disclaimer, which I think is important because these are real people that make these things.
Mm-hmm.
They're going through real human experience things.
Mm-hmm. So some of them, their last human experience things.
I want to talk about that in a second. But they make movies, and movies are fun to watch. We all get to watch them. Mm-hmm. If we didn't have movies, we'd do what they did in this movie. We drink sodas all day. That's what they did in the 70s. They didn't have movies. They would gather around to drink sodas out of straws. And that is not as exciting as being able to watch movies.
You're right, it's not as exciting.
So we thank everybody out there making movies. We encourage people to make things, no matter how it turns out. It's just fun. Go out there, do it. Do your thing. That's exciting. It gives us all something to watch and talk about, and that's what we do here on the podcast. We consume the movie. We discuss it here together with our friends. So keep making things, everybody. That's what we say. Don't ever stop. Never stop. Never stopping. Okay, the Secrets of Jonathan Sperry is available on YouTube. Put the link in the show notes if you want to check it out. If you would like to watch the film in its entirety, what I'm about to... Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Do you want to do your synopsis?
Don't worry, it won't take long. The IMDb synopsis says, in 1970, 75-year-old Jonathan Sperry starts mentoring 3 boys, Dustin, Albert, and Mark, to follow the Lord.
Yeah. Oh, and that's it.
That's it.
Okay, well, there's the summary.
Yeah, and I wondered why. Oh my gosh, this synopsis has no details in it. No,
I'm so curious.
That's the detail.
And I'm so interested in this movie as a whole. I need to just do this because I don't want to break our spoiler rules. If you have not seen this film, it obviously stars some heavy hitters. Go check it out on YouTube. It's in the show notes right now. You can watch the film. I'm about to read a synopsis to kind of give everyone an overview of the story. If you would like, it's going to have spoilers in it. We're going to go all the way to the end, so you have kind of a construct of this movie story. If you would like to watch the film, you stop now, pause this.
Get your popcorn.
In a new tab, get your soda in a glass bottle.
With the little...
popcorn. And you can go watch the movie. It's on YouTube, full movie right now. And then come back and we'll talk about it together. Okay, if you're still here, that means that you're choosing this adventure with us. You're choosing to go on.
Or they paused it and they came back.
Or you're back. Welcome back. I hope your soda was delicious. Made with real sugar back then. And possibly real cocaine in the Coke. That was happening for a while. Okay, so here's the synopsis of The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry. My rundown for the people who saw this a long time ago or didn't see it. In the year 1970, a group of boys live in a town where the tall torment the small. The 3 boys, Albert, Mark, and Dustin, were the best of friends, so much so that they all wore identical shorts, shoes, and socks. The boys all have their interests. Mark is interested in fishing, Dustin is interested in his crush, Tanya, and Albert is also interested in Dustin's crush, Tanya. The boys' plans for a summer of drinking sodas and sabotaging each other's romantic ventures all change when they meet Jonathan Sperry from the church. Jonathan is an older man in the neighborhood who lives by himself and has, you guessed it, secrets. Even as the boys get to know him, questions remain. What's in his secret lemonade recipe? How often is he visiting graveyards with children? Why does he keep insisting his neighbor needs his grass cut when he clearly has no grass? Some of these mysteries are solved, but sadly others are not, as Mr. Sperry very suddenly takes one last trip to the graveyard. The boys are sad to lose the I wish I didn't. I read that joke before I do. The boys are sad to lose a friend, but as everyone in the town moves on to bigger and better things, Mark goes on to be a scientist, Albert goes on to own radio stations, Dustin goes on to be a pastor, Tanya goes on to not date Dustin, and Mr. Barnes dies. They never forget that summer and their time with their good friend, Jonathan Sperry, from the church.
That's it.
I really should get the research before I write the jokes. Making a mental note.
Too soon.
Now you have it. That's the movie. The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry. Sent in by a listener, I'll say now.
Boy, thank you.
Yeah, we got this.
Woo.
Tim, let's discuss. What was something that was shocking to you about this movie?
Wow, so many things. The most shocking thing about this movie was how terribly unshocking the movie was. It was so bland.
Yeah.
And vanilla is like it was paint drying. Mm-hmm. Sorry, this is gonna come out. This is gonna come out.
Yeah.
As our descriptions go along. Literally. Nothing was shocking. The most shocking thing I found in the whole film was Dustin's mom, her headwear at the funeral.
The scarf.
Because it was like a floral
What do you call that?
pattern. Yeah.
A scarf? Ascot? I'm not familiar enough.
No, I think it's just a little head wrap. But
Yeah,
she wore
it was a choice.
It was vibrant.
It was a choice for a funeral.
Yeah. That's it. Whoa.
It very much. We've had this with Christian movies before. I don't know what this pension is, but we reviewed a couple ago one called The Wager, where no real wager was really waged.
Right.
And then we had one here like The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry. So you're sort of waiting for like the big reveal, like
anything.
In my head, I'm like, is he Dustin's grandfather? What is the big reveal secret? And it was very nothing, really.
Right. I described... Well, I'll get to that.
The thing... I mean, I mentioned it in the summary because I just couldn't get over it. I paused and laughed, the movie. Because what was shocking to me was how hard everyone was working to gaslight Mr. Barnes into the fact that his grass needed to be mowed. Because first, it's Jonathan Sperry who's like... Dustin, would you mind going over there and mowing Mr. Barnes' grass? I've noticed it's gotten really long and he's having a hard time getting around. And they literally take a moment to do a wide shot on this man's front yard as Dustin approaches. And that grass does not need... It's mostly like the kind of... I don't know. I know climates are different. In Florida, when it's rainy, we get like green. It's not grass though. It's like these little ground weeds that like... You know what I'm saying? I don't know if other places have this, but it doesn't grow.
Ground weeds.
It doesn't grow big. It's just like you just have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it's called.
It's more horizontal.
Yeah, it's a straight up. But you look at the grass from afar, you're like, well, it's green, and you're like, yeah, because it's summer and everything's growing. But like, that's not real grass.
No.
That's what this man has going on.
Yeah.
And they're like, but it's really getting at. It's not like it's this overgrown house. It's just. There's no need to mow this. This is not an immediate need.
Right, and his refusal, like, the whole time he's refusing to have his lawn mowed. And I think that was a legitimate thing, like, no, just, can you get off my lawn? You're not making a difference here. Just get off my property. I didn't want you here.
I don't need this thing. But then...
I don't need it. I don't want it. Like, I don't want you here. And the kid's like, no.
I'll do it for free. He's just completely ignoring him.
Right.
And he's like, I'll do a good job. It's not about doing a good... The grass doesn't need to be mowed. No. And you showed us that the grass didn't need to be mowed.
Like, if I came to you now, I was like, hey, let me give you a haircut.
Right. Exactly.
No, don't touch my head. No, I'll trim it up. I'll do it for free.
I know.
Yeah, don't freaking touch me.
Dude, haircut. Shout out. Billy Works. Best barber in the area. Shouts out.
He didn't sponsor this thing.
No, he did it.
Bacon sponsored ours.
Bacon packaging specifically. The gaslighting was real. Dustin and Mr. Sperry contributed to trying to gaslight Mr. Barnes, who was just simply stating the fact, I don't need my grass mowed, and they were not taking it as an answer. Give me a character you wanted to see less of.
Everyone? Is it possible? Mean? Cruel? Like, obviously, Nick was a turd for a while. You don't like him. He's the bully.
He's the bully.
But am I allowed to say Jonathan Sperry?
Oh,
Can I say it?
Definitely.
Like, because he's the title character. He's the main guy.
Yeah.
But he was obnoxious. Like...
Yeah.
Like, weird... Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on there. But mostly like for his mind games, like the stuff he would play, like when he does the little Christian-y thing where he goes, sends all the three boys out, and he's like, all right, I'll give you all instructions for how to find ice cream.
Yeah,
and then he gives them each different instructions to go different places, and like one comes back and he's got the ice cream. The other kid goes out, he had directions, but like he didn't get to the ice cream.
Right.
And then the last one didn't find his directions at all.
Yeah.
And his explanation for that was, well, some people are going to learn about Jesus in the Bible, and that's their instructions.
Right.
And they'll go to heaven because of it. And other people are going to get the wrong instructions, and they're not going to heaven. And some people won't get instructions at all. They're not going anywhere. They're just going to die.
Right.
And then the boys are like, well, that's not freaking fair. And then he goes, yeah, well, they didn't say freaking. That would have been a cuss word.
That would have been...
And so he's like, well, that's the way the world works, which might not actually be. But then, which, I mean, I guess he finds out later after he dies. Too soon?
You just...
I love
how strongly you feel about this movie.
Like the mind games he's playing, and then at the end of that, he goes, "Well, everybody gets ice cream anyway."
Right.
You're like, "Is this universalism? Is that what you're into?" Like, that's fine. But like this like mind twist games, and well, you can have ice cream anyway or cake, whatever it was. And then he does the game where he's like, "Okay, all three of y'all, you can have this $5 bill, which back then could buy you an entire large pizza, extra large, sorry."
Yeah.
It's like, you three have to all touch each other, and then touch the tree, and then you have to reach that $5 bill over there.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we can't do it. Like, there's no way to do it.
Right, they're straining.
And they're like straining, and like they cannot physically do this.
Right.
Because later on we find out they had a fourth boy, Nick, and they can do it barely. So there's no way they were going to do it with three.
Right.
And it's like he's just teasing these kids. This old man is like just mind screwing with these kids.
Which, and you're not even bringing up the graveyard scene, which I assume we'll both get to at a different point. But yeah, it very much so. And I don't know. People who didn't grow up in like evangelical Christianity, this was like a thing. In Adventures in Odyssey, it was Mr. Whitaker. It was like an old grandfather. He's actually no one's grandfather, but he's like grandfatherly. Like he's old and he's wise and he's got insights. And like, I don't know, maybe this did work at that point in history. Raising a kid right now, one of the things I thought was like, if I set up a game, they can't win. Like, go look for this outside in the bushes. They're going to go look and be like, there's nothing out there. And I'll be like, see, I'm teaching you a lesson.
Right.
You know what's going to happen next time I ask them to do something? They're not going to do it.
Right. And also, like, see how this is related to the love of Jesus?
It's a big jump.
Yeah. I'm okay. Count me in.
Yeah, like, my kid's not going to do it. They're just going to check out and be like, no, I'm not reaching for the thing I physically can't reach for. Stop with these games.
Right.
Like the feedback.
For what, for cake? Thanks. Pops.
Like, it's just like the feedback. I don't know. Maybe at this point kids were doing it no matter what. But in my experience, they're not going to do it anymore. If you can't win the game, you can't complete the task, they're just not going to do it.
Right. And he also gave me some creepy vibes.
100%.
Okay.
100%. I mean, it just is like...
He's like, hey, like the kid mows his lawn. He's like, hey, come over, mow my lawn. Boy, I'm the neighbor. Come mow my lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, you did a great job. I was watching you through the window.
Yep, that line was an immediate...
And then he's like, why don't you come in my house and have some lemonade and let me touch your leg. Because he did.
He did not.
And then the next shot is like,
specifically to touch his
tell you what, why don't you bring a couple more friends over? No.
The way you're moving your eyes is making it worse, but everything you're saying fundamentally was present.
And then he's like, well, now I'm going to give you some strange tasks to do. And then you're going to come back here for some cake.
Right. There's a lot that in 2008 we were still learning and growing in our knowledge of how sort of creepy people operate.
Of predators? Yeah, we knew this a long time before that.
You and I both have worked at the Y, and we know how to identify some of this. It's like, yeah, none of this is...
That's called grooming.
This was folksy at one point, and now it's not.
Till we figured out what they were doing.
Right. It's not cool anymore. Probably never. It just never was cool. My character I wanted to see less of was Dustin's horse room. Like, again, just a choice that was made. You're decorating an elementary schooler's room. And I didn't live in the 70s. I don't know what was hot. But, like, he's just got straight up horses. Not cowboys, mind you. He's not a fan of the Denver Broncos. Mm-mm. These are just straight different types of horses. Mm-hmm. And I am familiar with the motif of the horse girl, and that is a thing I've experienced.
Yeah.
But a guy who has, in the narrative of the film, expressed no interest in horses, like never mentioned it even offhandedly. And then he walks into his room, and it is a horse, like, cathedral. Mm-hmm. There is a giant painting of a horse. Mm-hmm. There's horses everywhere. Mm-hmm. He's just like, we're never going to talk about
the little
this.
Figurine on his desk. Yeah,
this is a horse palace, and he's never once mentioned horses. Like, this is a level of commitment to an animal.
I wonder if Tanya was a horse girl, and then maybe he was like, maybe if she ever comes over, she'll know that I'm into horses, and then we'll
painted horses. Am I right?
Hit to the barn.
Dustin's horse room was the character I wanted to see less of. Who did you want to see more of, Tim?
What did I say? Oh, you know what I wanted to see more of? Similarly to not being a real character, I wanted to see more of the "Where Are They Now" updates at the end of the film.
What in the world? What in the world?
At the end of the film, they're like, and Dustin's now a pastor, but it's like everyone's a Christian doing Christian things.
Yeah,
Dustin is a Christian pastor. Mark is a biologist at a Christian college. Teaching about Christian creation. Albert owns several Christian radio stations.
3.
Nick is a cop who is Christian.
Who does Christian stuff on the side.
Teaching Christian things to troubled, unchristian teens.
Right.
Tanya is definitely not a Christian. Or not a character related to a girl rejected to the writer of the movie. Certainly not. She became a Christian who never dated Dustin and probably regretted it for the rest of her life.
What could have been?
I mean, you could have had a director or a writer.
What could have been?
I don't know, somebody who's part of a film crew. But it definitely wasn't. She's not real.
Right.
Yeah, but I want to see more of those updates. I want to see something for everybody.
Well, what was so funny was this movie starts with saying, this movie is not a real story. And I noted that because I'm like, that's kind of the base premise we start all movies with. And in fact, so generally our social contract is you tell us if the movie is based on a real story. Like, because we start by thinking none of this is real. That's how we interact with movies. So when you start a movie by saying, hey, this isn't real. None of this is real. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? Well, I don't know why you feel compelled. It doesn't actually look like this is a documentary or anything. But then at the end, they do these life updates. They do the life the in memoriam essentially for Jonathan Sperry on a black and white screen, like
he was a real dude.
Like you tried to confuse like it's almost like you tried to say it was not based on a real story, but then you went like out of your way to go, I don't know though. Could be based on, and they were like you said, they weren't like jokes. Remember,
this is the mind-twisting game of Mr. Sperry.
In the late 90s, early 2000s, they used to end movies with like funny "Where Are They Nows," and that's like, if you're not telling a real story, that's the only thing you can do. Jokes. That's it. You can't make up some semi-believable story about someone's life and then be like, but it doesn't matter, they're not a real person. Well, what are we doing here? I wanted to see more of a character that's already been shouted out. Dustin's mom. I wanted to see more of Dustin's mom.
She was kind of a looker.
This is what I think she did a solid job in the movie. She Dustin's out there hustling. He's mowing yards. He's doing his thing. He does a good job, and he's like, yeah, my mom always tells me to do a good job. And the big thing, she gives him money for pizza with his friend. She's like, hey, I'm going out. Here's some money. Get your friend some pizza. Just seemed to like be setting up a good thing. And we never discuss in this movie that. So they kind of set Nick up as like his dad. Tragically passed away, and that's why he's such an awful person to everybody, and he's just a terrible human being, basically. But like Dustin is living the same story. I don't know where Dad is. Like no. Dad's nowhere to be found.
Well, I'll get to that in a second. But go on.
But I just shouts out to Dustin's mom. I'm like, she's out here raising a fine young man. And then of course this is for me. This was very personal. He's kind of grieving Mr. Sperry's death at the table, what's probably supposed to be like days later, and she says, "All right, it's time to move on with your life. Like, you can't keep doing like this." And people close to me will know that is close to my heart because there are characters in real life who sometimes take that position of like, okay, we gotta keep it moving.
Right.
I know you're sick, but we got things to do today.
Right.
This is like a character trait that I think is positive.
The lawn's not going to mow itself, kid.
You got things to do. I'm a single mom over here, okay? I'm over here in the 1970s. I think I'm barely voting at this point. And I'm raising you in this climate. I'm sorry your old man friend is no longer here, but like, we got things to do.
Right.
We got to keep it moving, son. We're barely surviving. Get with it. You think those horses pay for themselves in that room? I like it. I like Dustin's mom. This is going to be hard for you, I know, but give me some low points.
There's like a 40-minute stretch of Dustin trying to give a note to Tanya. Should I give her the note now?
Right.
Yeah. You should.
Uh-huh.
Well, maybe you shouldn't.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give her the note now. Fast forward 10 minutes. I think the note's ready to be written. I'm going to write it now. I think I'm going to give it to her.
Yeah.
Oh, is that so? Why don't you check and see if Tanya's working today? She's working today. I should leave her a note. Now I will.
There's a whole phone
sequence. Give her the note. Give her the note. Put the note in her hand. Just tell her the thing. You don't need to. Just say words.
And what's funny is you're watching this, and Albert is expressing all of your like in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Why don't you just give it to her right now?
Yeah.
No, I can't do that. Like, oh my gosh, dude.
But we're like, I understand telling the story of like a kid waffling and he's not sure what to do and he's nervous, but like, I don't need to see every minute of him pondering the situation.
Second.
It's a note. He's not deciding whether to jump off a cliff or not.
And this is one of my favorite conversations with you because we love the like telling of stories and things. It's just we're both really fascinated. And it's like this didn't do anything for the story. At the end of it all,
right.
Tanya had nothing to do with anything.
Nothing at all.
Essentially.
Right.
So it's like, whatever. It was like taking Squints and Wendy Peppercorn and making it like a 40-minute part of Sandlot.
And have him not be funny, not interesting.
Right.
Have Wendy not be attractive.
Well,
sorry,
in this
no
movie,
offense.
She's like 8 years old in this movie. But like...
Wendy Peppercorn.
It just didn't do anything. That was my big issue. I was like, oh, it's kind of cute or whatever. The kids were very thorough. I made this as a note. They just were very thorough in their planning. Like, one of my things, we watched The Sandlot recently with Graz, and I'm like, they always are throwing together planning. Like, I don't know, we'll meet out at the field later. And then everybody ends up there at the same place, same time. And you're like, well, I mean, I don't know, whatever. They were figuring stuff out. Mm-hmm. But this, they're like, everything. It wasn't just a note. It was like, okay, I'm going to go drop my bike off. I'm going to put my helmet in the garage. You go ahead and head to Mr. Sperry's house. When you get there, start the hot water going because I'm going to want tea at some point, and it takes a while to warm up. Albert, you're going to go home. Use your abacus to figure out, like, it was all very meticulous. Everything was very meticulously planned for, like, 9-year-old boys.
And for no reason. Like, they just needed filler time. Like, I gotta make a 90-minute movie. Let's just add some more. Should we add some more words?
Right.
No actions.
Yeah.
Just words? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
My low point was the graveyard. There was a graveyard scene where, first of all, the setup to the scene was like, it was just the most disorienting part of the whole movie for me, because the kids go to Mr. Sperry to tell him about Nick, the town bully. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this reminds me of a lesson. Takes him to a graveyard. Which I'm like, are they trying to, where's he going with this? Like, this is where my enemies lie.
How about when he starts whispering?
And then he's like, quiet, can you hear everything? And they're like, no, I don't hear anything. And then
you can't hear anything?
Asks them to put their heads closer to tombstones. And then comes up behind him and starts whispering, he's personifying characters who are agonizing in hell.
Right.
To what looks to be 9-year-old kids in a graveyard. And I was like, we have taken such a turn. Like, it went from like kind of this very targeted to like children's ministry kind of HR feeling movie about like, you know, basic Christian stuff that was just very typical of the early time, to this was even like, wow, I was in youth group at this time and it didn't get this weird for me. Like an old man saying, help, I wish you personally had told me about Jesus, but because you, Dustin, didn't. It was like, bro.
I mean, then that's what we were hearing in church anyway. So
that's what I was saying though. Mine never got like to this. There was like the Judgment House ideas and things like that were going on. But then you had that like really odd moment in the movie, and I was like, that just did not come across great. And they doubled down on it at the end when Dustin kind of like takes the mantle from Jonathan Sperry. You're like, well, is he going to do the cake lesson, the ice cream lesson? Which of the great lessons is he going to... He takes him back to the graveyard and he's like, this is where we start. This is where we start. It just was a lot.
And it's weird that he became a pastor.
15 years at one church. Noted. All right, what was your high point?
This is the shocking part. There weren't that many. But my high point was that I started writing backstories to these characters while I was watching the paint dry.
The kids?
Everybody.
Okay.
Just while the story was going on, because I had to stay interested somehow.
Yeah.
Nick had mob ties growing up. That's where his like New York accent, his like New England accent came in, because it came up every once in a while. Dustin likely poisoned Mr. Sperry as retaliation for withholding cake and money. Just a fan theory. Mr. Barnes and Mr. Sperry's tumultuous relationship, fighting over the same girl in World War I.
Oh,
I think that was
done it. Yeah,
a little bit more of it, and then of course he ran her over at the end.
I got to get home to this Betty.
The absurd amount of horse artwork on display in Dustin's house are because of his dad, who died tragically in an equestrian accident. But was it an accident?
Oh. Looking at Nick's dad, maybe, with the mob ties.
Or did Dustin's attractive mom have a little darker side?
Wow.
Yeah. So these are my high points. Were points that were not
your fan theories that you developed.
Had to make something.
The stuff.
Yeah.
My high points were just the work ethic of kids in the 70s. Tanya is also 9 years old. She's taken shifts at the diner. She is a server.
Yeah.
Dustin is mowing lawns, out there doing his thing. Albert's rehearsing his radio program at the house. We got to take the technology away from these kids, and they get a lot more industrious out there in this world.
That's a good point.
They were hustling, and you're like, part of it's like my first thought with Tanya is like working at the restaurant, especially because that felt like a more official capacity. I used to mow lawns when I was a kid, but I was like, that's kind of weird. And then I was like, what else are they doing?
Movies cost a whole quarter.
It's like what are they doing all day? There's a scene where Dustin and his mom are sitting in the living room, and they're just sitting in chairs. And then a conversation starts up, and I'm like, man, that must have really been what the 70s were like. You're just looking for stuff to do all day.
But not looking very hard.
Put kids into the workforce. That's the answer. They're working for something to do for $2 a lawn. Work ethic of kids, high point. How How many raised hand emojis out of 5 do you give this, Tim? Remember, you can only give 5. That's the max.
I wrote down, what's more sleepy than grass? What's more vanilla than beige paint? What stimulates excitement less than watching someone yawn? This movie. I can't possibly give this movie more than a 0. I can't. I cannot. I fell asleep writing the lowest number possible.
Yeah. That checks. The person that sent this in said that they had like memories of it from when they were a kid, that they were like in church and they were showing this movie. And it's like, people don't remember because of like how all the streaming services now. But there was a time when your teacher put on like a VeggieTales VHS tape. It was a physical thing. And it was a bit of an event. And this is probably somewhere in the same era. 2008 is like right after I graduated high school. So movies were still like, I think Netflix was the mail service at that point. So it was like movies were still a thing. I'm going somewhere with this to say you might have fond memories of this if you were a kid and you were like, oh, we're finally not doing a flannel graph in Sunday school today. We're watching this movie. If you tuned into this movie any time past being like 6 years old, you're probably gonna not respond really positively to it.
I would rather pressure wash a driveway than watch that again.
Okay, but don't sleep on pressure washing. It's like a great activity. I would put that above several things.
Okay, I would rather strip the paint off a table than watch this movie.
Know where to start.
I was so bored. No offense.
No offense to all the people who've passed that were a part of this movie. I had 2 on it. I had 2.
Somebody's gonna watch this movie because of that recommendation.
No, because 2 is on the bottom end.
No, that's.
This
sorry.
is
I can't criticize your personal feelings, but geez, I fear for someone going, okay, well maybe it's worth watching.
No, I think we've given the totality of the review. Like, A Man Called John, I thought was watchable because there was like a lot of silliness and stuff.
Sure.
I have this at a 2. Honestly, I thought Albert was the main kid. Dustin, thank you. I thought Dustin's performance was okay for a kid in a movie. I thought it had some charm to the way the kids were talking and like interacting. There was a little bit that I was like, yeah, this is fairly watchable. The like amount of early 2000s Christian weirdness is high, and it puts me past the like, this is not really a fun watch. It's kind of like I don't like this. I don't care for the what we're doing in this movie, bigger picture wise. So it lands more in like some of the weird my dad is picking my husband movies for me, because it was just like, that's where it lands. It stays in that space for me. But doggone it, I thought the kids were like at points charming, and you had that some of the little thing that exists in the Sandlot was, I thought these kids did a solid job. I went in going like, honestly, one of my first thoughts was like, with kids in movies, I just don't like kids in movies lately. I'm really against it. You get stuff coming out too about like kids that are in like entertainment at a young age. It's not good. So going into this, I was almost like, why do we need to just stop? Collectively, we need to like say, you can't participate in this stuff till you're like, I don't know, 18. But overall, I thought the kids were solid. The storytelling was bizarre and wonky.
I don't know what movie you watched.
I can't go more
to say the kids were solid.
For you to say 0, and I would look at it and be like, that's not an unfair rating. I had it at 2, thinking,
you know what?
There's a little charm to it.
I will say it can be. I'm okay with a 2 if your sound machine is broken right before bed, and you're like, I just need something. It's a great sound machine. You'll fall right asleep. You're gonna be fine.
It's gonna put you out. It's gonna put you out.
Done.
For
an hour and a half, yeah.
Sheep, you're counting the secrets. Yeah, you won't find a lot of secrets, but it's the name of the movie. The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry. Thank you to whoever sent this in. Thank you so much. This was a treat. If you have a Christian movie that you grew up watching, that you enjoyed at one point, we probably ruined this for this poor guy forever.
That's a service.
Don't you feel weird about like because we started with this. I guess it's a weird place to end. But people that like die in movies. I'm like of old age, older people. I guess let me clarify. Older people who like die of like reasonable, if you're in a Marvel movie
like this
and
is
a
part
car
of the story.
hits you,
Okay, yep.
like that's whatever. But if you're like, I remember the show Parenthood. I don't know how much you watch. Did you watch Parenthood?
Yeah,
it was great.
All of it.
When like Craig T. Nelson, like he's older, and then he dies of like being an older guy. Like I feel like that would rock me. Like if I was the older guy, if I'm the older guy actor.
Oh, gotcha.
I feel like I would be like...
If you're old and your character dies of being old,
right.
then you're like looking around every corner going...
That's what I'm saying. You're like,
yeah.
Let me just get into character real quick. Oh, it's not that hard. I'm actually kind of in my 80s. Okay.
So I just close my eyes?
So for this scene, I just sort of drift off. Can we get a body double or something? I don't want to do this. Can someone else do this? That's one thing I'm like, that would be so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Jonathan Sperry did it for this film.
And then he...
Although we never saw what happened. Just the house
Dustin poisoned him. That's my theory.
Fan theories.
It holds up.
Tim will send you more fan theories if you contact us at The Bible is Funny. So anyway, thank you for sending this in to our friend who sent it in. If you have a Christian movie, send it at The Bible is Funny on Instagram, on TikTok. We'll take it. Send it in, and we'll review your movie next. And Tim will be so happy to do it. He loves Christian movies. Tim, any last words for the people?
Yeah, my first note was go ahead and fast forward to the first 40 minutes. And then my second note was, okay, 70 minutes.
Is that how long the movie is?
No, it's 90. It didn't get interesting until like 10 minutes left.
Oh,
no
respect.
Offense.
Full movie is in the show description. Follow at The Bible is Funny, and we'll talk to you there. Bye.
The Bible is funny.